Oh, well, this is exciting. Earlier today, we're being told tourists and National Trust rangers saw the legendary fin disappear into a magical doorway within the rock face here at the Giant's Causeway.
Along the rugged coastline of Northern Ireland, towering stone columns rise from the ground in such precise formations that they almost don't look natural. This place is known as the Giant's Causeway. Recently, Irish archaeologists made a shocking discovery there. One that many who witnessed it are still hesitant to talk about. During the investigation, a drone operator recorded something extraordinary. A massive 20-ton basalt slab appeared to swing open from the side of a cliff. What makes this even more unbelievable is that decades of geological studies, spanning over 60 years, had confirmed that this section of the cliff was completely solid rock. The opening lasted only 11 seconds before sealing itself shut again, leaving no visible cracks, seams, or signs that anything had moved at all. Even more strange, reports surfaced that tourists and National Trust rangers saw a figure, believed to be the legendary fin, disappear into a glowing opening in the rock. This happened at the exact moment archaeologists were scanning that same area with ground-penetrating radar. The next morning, when researchers finally managed to examine what lay behind that mysterious opening, the lead scientist was left speechless, stunned into silence for nearly 2 full minutes by what they had found. She didn't write anything down or adjust any controls. She just stood there, staring at the screen. Whatever the radar picked up inside that sealed volcanic rock was so unsettling that the official research paper was never released. Soon after, the monitoring equipment was quietly taken away, and whatever had been trapped inside that cliff for an estimated 60 million years was suddenly gone. The person at the center of this story isn't a scientist at all. His name is Kieran Doyle, a 34-year-old electrician from Dublin. One Tuesday afternoon last autumn, Doyle drove north along the coast. The forecast had promised clear skies and calm seas, perfect conditions for capturing a wide cinematic video of the Antrim coastline for his Instagram. It was something he'd done many times before. Launch his drone, record a few minutes of footage over the cliffs, pick the best clip, and head home. This area is one of Northern Ireland's most famous landmarks, where natural science meets ancient legend. Every year, thousands of visitors come to see the Giant's Causeway, the first place in Ireland to be recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Doyle wasn't chasing myths or expecting anything unusual, but that evening, his drone captured something completely unexpected. Footage that would soon become one of the most closely examined amateur recordings in recent years. The footage shows something almost impossible. A section of the basalt cliff actually moving, not breaking apart, not sliding down, but shifting as a single piece. A slab about the size of a van, nearly 20 tons of solid volcanic rock, slowly swings open, like a door turning on hidden hinges. Behind it, there's nothing but darkness. The sky was overcast, and strong winds swept in from the Atlantic. She set up her ground-penetrating radar, carefully calibrated it, and aimed it directly at the cliff face before starting the scan. What appeared on her screen stopped her cold. Her assistant later said he initially thought the equipment had malfunctioned, but she didn't react at all. No notes, no adjustments, nothing. She just stood there, completely still, staring at the display for nearly 2 minutes without saying a word. According to accounts that haven't yet been independently verified, the radar revealed something no one expected. a large hollow chamber hidden deep within what had always been believed to be solid basalt. Roughly 3 meters deep and 8 meters wide, it appeared to be a sealed space, completely enclosed in rock with no visible entrance or exit. A void that somehow had never been detected before. That alone should have been impossible. But what the scan revealed inside that chamber made the discovery even more unsettling. According to the data, there were 7 tall shapes standing upright in the darkness. Each one measured between 2 and 2.5 meters in height. They weren't scattered or collapsed. They were arranged with precision, spaced exactly 1 meter apart, all facing the same direction. Toward the stone door. It looked deliberate, almost like they had been placed there on purpose. And here's where things become difficult to explain. Basalt doesn't form around upright objects. It comes from molten lava that cools into solid rock. It doesn't slowly build up like sedimentary layers. The only way anything could be trapped inside it like that is if it had already been there while the lava was still liquid at temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Celsius. In other words, if the scan is accurate, those figures would have been in place during the volcanic eruption that formed the Giant's Causeway around 60 million years ago. To put that in perspective, humans wouldn't appear on Earth for another 59 million years. Whatever those 7 shapes were, they would have existed long before any human ever walked the planet. The motion is smooth and controlled, almost mechanical, and it lasts exactly 11 seconds. Then, just as quietly, the slab swings back into place with perfect precision. No cracks, no gaps, no sign that anything had moved at all. If you had walked past that spot moments later, you would have seen nothing unusual. At first, Doyle wasn't even sure he should share the video. He thought maybe his drone had glitched, or that the lighting had created some kind of illusion. But after watching it again and again, 6 times on his phone, he noticed something unsettling. The shadows behind the slab were shifting. This wasn't a trick of the light. The footage was real. The door had opened and something had been behind it. That same night, he uploaded the video. By morning, his phone was flooded with calls. Geologists, journalists, and researchers from universities all wanted answers. Was this genuine or an incredibly convincing fake? One of those calls stood out. It came from Dr. Sarah Brennan, a senior geologist at Queen's University, Belfast, who has spent years studying the basalt formations along the Antrim coast. She has published extensively on volcanic rock structures in the North Atlantic and is known for her skepticism when it comes to viral claims. When her colleagues first sent her the video, she nearly dismissed it. But something made her watch it again. And then again. By the 3rd viewing, she picked up the phone and called Doyle herself. She told him plainly what he had recorded either broke every known rule of geology, or it was the most elaborate hoax she had ever encountered. The very next day, she drove straight to the site to see it for herself. For those who may not know, the Giant's Causeway is a stunning stretch of coastline in Northern Ireland made up of around 40,000 tightly packed hexagonal basalt columns. These formations were created about 60 million years ago when extremely hot lava, over 1,090 degrees Celsius, cooled and cracked into these remarkably precise shapes. According to local legend, a giant named Finn McCool built them as a pathway to Scotland. It's a charming story. But what may have been hidden within those cliffs is something far more mysterious. Here's what makes this so unusual. Despite centuries of research, geological surveys, and advanced scanning, no one had ever found a hollow space inside these asahur. No ancient records mention hidden chambers, and even the legends never suggest anything like it. Dr. Brennan herself had examined this coastline many times throughout her career, and every scan had always shown the same result: solid, unbroken rock. Until now. As kids, many of us heard stories about giants stacking these stones by hand. But the reality of how they formed is already fascinating enough. And now, with this new discovery, the story may be even more incredible than anyone imagined. If you want to keep up with how this unfolds, because it's far from over, this is where things start to take a serious turn. Some of the most important evidence hasn't even been made public yet, and it could change everything. The next morning, Dr. Brennan arrived at the exact location captured in Doyle's footage.
The following morning, a geophysicist named Dr. Ian Gallagher arrived from Belfast with more advanced scanning equipment. He specializes in imaging what lies beneath the surface, mapping hidden structures under rock, soil, and even the seabed. Over the years, he's worked on everything from underground river systems across northern Europe to deep geological studies for the Irish government. He's known for being calm, precise, and not easily shaken, but this time was different. Within 20 minutes of reviewing the new scan, his hands began to tremble so badly that he had to put his tablet down. He stepped away, pacing in small circles, rubbing the back of his neck as if trying to process what he was seeing. Then he returned to the screen for another look. What the higher resolution scan showed was something no one had expected. The 7 figures weren't solid stone. Instead, they appeared to be hollow, thin outer shells with empty space inside them, almost like cocoons or pods. It suggested that something may have once been inside each one, or perhaps still was. Even more puzzling, the material of these shells didn't match any known geological composition. No one could identify what they were made of. Whatever those shells were made of, they shouldn't have survived. Nothing organic can withstand direct contact with molten lava, and no known synthetic material could endure those temperatures for that long under such intense pressure. And yet, there they were, completely intact, sealed inside rock that had once been liquid fire, formed at a time when dinosaurs were still disappearing from the earth. What followed next raised even more questions. Within 48 hours, government agencies were quietly informed. Messages were sent through secure channels, and private meetings were held behind closed doors. The site Dr. Brennan had spent years studying was suddenly taken out of her hands. Soon after, a team from an environmental agency arrived and released an official statement. They claimed the drone footage was nothing more than an optical illusion, light reflecting off wet basalt. According to them, there was no door, no unusual activity, and no sign of anything out of the ordinary. The area, they insisted, was completely normal, but something didn't add up. Dr. Brennan herself, listed as their lead consultant, refused to sign the report. She read through the document twice, then quietly handed it back without even picking up a pen. The room went silent. No one argued. No one tried to convince her otherwise. She simply stood up, gathered her notes, and walked out. Colleagues later said that before leaving, she returned to her laptop one last time. She opened the raw sonar data, stared at it for a long moment, then closed the screen. Her face had gone pale. A week later, she submitted her resignation. It was just 4 sentences long. The final line read, "I have seen enough." That was it. After 15 years of studying that coastline, that was her only conclusion. No explanation, no details, just those 3 words. I have seen enough. And then things moved quickly. Barriers were set up around the area, heavy steel fencing along with bright yellow warning signs. The official reason given was coastal erosion and the risk of falling rocks. It sounded routine, even boring, but anyone who had seen the scans knew there was more to it. Then came the final twist. Before the research team was officially ordered to leave, Dr. Brennan returned to the site one last time. 4 days after the initial scan, she conducted a follow-up survey, carefully comparing the new data with the original findings. She documented everything, expecting to see the same results again, hoping that she would. But what she found was not what she expected. He wanted to believe the first scan had simply been a glitch, something that would disappear when checked again. But when the new image appeared on the screen, he had to grab the edge of the console just to steady himself. One of the figures was gone. Only 6 remained. What made it even more disturbing was this. The stone door had not opened at all. After his original recording, Kieran Doyle had set up a motion sensor camera aimed directly at the cliff. It ran non-stop for 4 straight days. Outside, nothing changed. No movement, no vibration, no sign that anything had shifted. The rock face stayed completely sealed the entire time. And yet, inside that closed chamber, one of the figures, around 2 meters tall, had simply disappeared. There was no debris, no cracks, no hidden passage, no sign of disturbance. It was as if it had passed straight through solid rock and vanished without a trace. Even more unsettling, the 6 remaining figures didn't react. They didn't move, scatter, or change position. They stayed exactly where they were, still facing the door, almost as if the disappearance had been expected, as if that figure had simply been the first to leave. Then came another discovery. Dr. Neff Callahan, a thermography specialist from University College Dublin, was brought in to check for heat sources, things like underground magma, geothermal vents, or hidden water channels. She had done similar work many times before in places like Iceland and the Azores, and she expected to find something ordinary and explainable. It was a cold March morning with the air temperature around 4 degrees Celsius. The cliff itself was just as cold, nothing unusual for the Irish coast. But when she pointed her thermal camera toward the location of the chamber, everything changed. Her screen lit up with bright oranges and reds. According to the thermal data, the 6 remaining figures inside that sealed space were giving off heat at around 99 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not just close to human body temperature, that is human body temperature. And there's no known process in geology or physics that can explain something maintaining that level of heat inside cold, solid rock for extended periods, let alone for millions of years. Heat doesn't behave that way. It always spreads out and fades over time.
That's a basic law of physics. Yet, somehow, deep inside that cold basalt, surrounded by the chilled air of the Atlantic coast, something appeared to be holding steady at the temperature of a living body. Anything that hot should have balanced out with the surrounding rock in a matter of days, not millions of years. Days. Callahan checked everything. She recalibrated her equipment, swapped out the batteries, adjusted the camera, and scanned the area from 3 different angles. Every single time the result was the same, 99 degrees steady, clear, impossible to ignore. She even borrowed a second thermal camera from Gallagher's team to double-check. Same reading again. At one point, she turned to her colleagues and seriously asked if this was some kind of prank. But when she saw their faces, pale, tense, completely serious, she knew it wasn't. Without another word, she packed up her gear, put it in her car, and left. For 3 weeks, she didn't respond to a single call or email. When she finally did, it was just one line. "I need more time to process what I saw." But the discoveries didn't stop there. The team had also placed vibration sensors along the cliff. What those sensors picked up became one of the most disturbing parts of the entire investigation, a steady, repeating pulse every 4 seconds. It didn't change. It didn't fluctuate. It just continued, constant and precise. One senior researcher later admitted, very carefully, that the pattern was almost identical to a slow heartbeat, and the temperature readings weren't perfectly stable either. At times, they would rise above 100 degrees, then settle back down to 99 without any clear reason. These changes didn't match the tides, weather patterns, or any known geological activity. The team compared the data with barometric pressure, lunar cycles, even seismic activity across the North Atlantic. Nothing lined up. The heat seemed to behave on its own, as if it were being controlled from within, not influenced by anything outside, as if it were alive. Then came another shift. Every 72 hours, the team ran a new scan, and with each scan, something changed. The 6 remaining figures were moving, not dramatically, just a few centimeters at a time. Small enough that you wouldn't notice it in a single scan, but over time the movement became undeniable. It was consistent, directional, always heading the same way. They were no longer standing in their original perfectly spaced formation. Instead, they had begun to cluster together, slowly, steadily, making their way towards the sealed stone door. It was as if they were waking up after an unimaginably long sleep and deciding it was time to leave. When the researchers overlaid all the scanned data into one image, the result was chilling. 6 separate positions forming a clear path, an unbroken line leading directly to the exit. No one spoke for a long time after seeing it. Think about what that implies. If the data is accurate, these things have been trapped inside volcanic rock since a time before mammals even existed. They would have outlasted every species, every civilization, every empire that has ever come and gone above them. For tens of millions of years, they remained still, silent, waiting. And now, right now, they appear to be moving toward the door. Here's what makes it even more unsettling. Every year, more than 1 million tourists visit the Giant's Causeway. Families walk across those dark stone columns with their children, taking photos, listening to tour guides, and hearing stories about Finn McCool, completely unaware that just 12 meters behind that cliff face, 6 unknown entities may be giving off body heat, slowly moving closer to a stone door that has already opened once before. Despite everything, Dr. Brennan didn't stay silent. Even after resigning, she tried to bring the findings to light. She spent months putting together all the data, thermal readings, the rhythmic pulse patterns, movement over time, and analysis of the strange shell-like structures. She carefully wrote a formal research paper, had it reviewed by 2 trusted colleagues who confirmed her methods were solid, and submitted it to the Geological Review Board of Ireland. It was rejected. The official reasons were familiar. Faulty equipment, flawed methods, not enough evidence. Case closed. But that wasn't the full story. Not long after, one of the board members contacted her privately, off the record, using a burner phone. He told her the rejection had nothing to do with her science. The real concern was far bigger. If the public learned that something deep inside ancient basalt was showing signs of body heat and rhythmic pulses, it could completely overturn what we believe about the history of life on Earth. It would challenge timelines, rewrite textbooks, and raise questions about when and how intelligence first appeared on this planet. In April, the entire research team was quietly removed from the site. They were given a clear warning: stay silent or risk losing their careers. No papers, no interviews, no posts, nothing. But not everything disappeared. Some evidence still remains. Kieran Doyle kept the original drone footage. He saved it on 3 separate hard drives, each stored in different locations around Dublin. He checks them regularly, making sure the files are still intact and haven't been tampered with. He even told a close friend that since that night, he hasn't slept the same. More alert, more restless, as if something changed when he saw that rock move. Its signal was getting stronger and faster as it moved closer to the exit, almost as if it somehow knew how near it was. But the question that's been keeping researchers awake at night isn't about the 6 figures still inside. It's about the one that's already gone. When the chamber was first scanned, there were 7. Now there are only 6. One has disappeared completely. It didn't break through the rock, didn't open the door, and didn't leave behind a tunnel, a crack, or even a scratch. Not a single trace, no debris, no dust, nothing. It was simply gone. So, where did it go? Is it somewhere beneath the Atlantic, moving through underwater cave systems? Hidden in an unexplored cavern along the coastline? Sealed inside another cliff no one has thought to examine? Or could it be somewhere else entirely? Deep underground, beneath a city, inside a mountain? Moving through places we've never even considered looking. What's even more unsettling is that the remaining 6 didn't react at all when the 7th vanished. They didn't scatter or change direction. They just kept moving toward the door, slowly, steadily, as if nothing unusual had happened, as if it was expected, as if that one was simply the first to leave, as if the others are waiting for their turn. For all of human history, we've believed we were the first intelligent beings on this planet. But if these findings are real, they suggest something very different. Something may have existed here long before us, hidden within stone, giving off heat, pulsing with a rhythm that sounds exactly like a heartbeat, waiting silently while entire civilizations rose and fell above it. At one point, Dr. Brennan shared a thought privately with someone she still trusts. We think of ancient history as something dead, something we dig up and preserve behind glass. But what if it isn't dead? What if it's only been sleeping? And what if it's starting to wake up? Right now, deep within the cliffs of the Giant's Causeway, 6 figures are said to be standing just behind that stone door. Their pulses are getting stronger. Their heat signatures are rising. They're only centimeters away from the exit. And the 7th? It may already be out there, somewhere in a world that has no idea it exists. So, what do you think? Are those 6 still behind the door? Or have more already come out? Share your thoughts. And if you want to stay updated as new information comes to light, make sure you're ready, because this story may not be over yet.